Mr. JK here. Real quick, this is 100% unscripted uh, cast at this time. Um, and as long as I can make, as long as I can get away with it, I'm going to make it unscripted, 100%. So it leaves it up to human error 100% of the time. Quick shout out to John Pearson and Todd Henson and Jacob Peterson, as those three were uh, originally the ones that convinced me to do this thing. Um, and shout out to Casey Tubbs, as I'm pretty sure you'll end up seeing this as well. Anyways, before I end up getting to what the title of the video is, um, in the more recent video, I mentioned a thing called the humble pie that I was willing to serve up to somebody. Well, as it turns out, the humble pie was served to me, and I didn't take it very well. Um, so basically, brings it down to things that did not survive the Super Bowl result. so um, there was a particular fan that I have had in my possession that I got years ago when I first, probably when I first moved into this house or so, that ended up getting kicked because of a certain uh, play that happened. I can't remember the exact play, but I ended up straight up kicking that against the wall. My fist ended up uh, getting hurt a little bit. Didn't break or fracture or anything, but I did hit it up against my wall right over here somewhere. And it's a good thing that there was a stud in that particular location, because otherwise it would have looked like a certain spot that was back there because of how pissed off I got. Another thing was throwing a certain belt at the TV during, like, let's say around third or fourth quarter, and the belt buckle ended up hitting the top of the screen, cracking it. Now I got to deal with unwanted lines in there, all because I got uh, mad uh, that the Niners were practically giving the game away to the Chiefs. All right, so those are just a few things that did not survive, and uh, I ended up pretty much hiding anything that was hard enough to destroy the TV after that uh, out of my sight, because I knew that it was going to happen again. And I even ended up taking off the shirt I was wearing at the time and threw that at the TV, and some wrapping paper, which uh, like a roll of wrapping paper ended up getting thrown at the TV as well. Just a few things naming off. So basically, it's any wonder that my house even survived the downfall at all, because it was at my place where all this was happening at. I mean, it was like I literally was like punching this wall, and like literally like the I was sitting on the couch like right over there, and the belt just so happened to be sitting right next to me on the couch at the time. So I just kind of went ahead, picked it up, and whipped it right at the TV, and it just so happened to do that. Those lines in that TV is because of me. So yeah, that's basically how I ended up um, with the result of the Super Bowl the way it is, and at the end of the game, pretty much I just turned the channel because I knew that the Kansas City Chiefs just had it in the bag anyways, and I just couldn't bear to see the end of the game where I knew the result was going to be something I was going to be mad at. So the fact that I didn't even really see the end of the game uh, is something else that didn't really happen. But you know what? I guess I gotta say I got a pie in my face, definitely, and I was I was really upset because I really really wanted the Niners to get that Super Bowl win after almost 20 years of not getting a Super Bowl win. But I know there's always next year. I know a good majority of the guys, if not all of them, will be returning. I still have faith in Kyle Shanahan as a coach, so that's something that I will be looking forward to see what kind of adjustments him and his coaching staff takes to kind of get them up over that hump to get to that next step, which is the Super Bowl win. Um, Now, one thing that I've been telling a lot of people this year, since the Chiefs had made it in and the Packers were one game away from getting into the Super Bowl. Had they had Now this doesn't mean I was going to cheer against my Niners at all, but had they had gotten past my Niners, got to the Super Bowl, and it was the Packers versus the Chiefs, that would have been an exact matchup of Super Bowl one, which would have been cool to see. But at the same time, I really, really wanted my 49ers to get there and beat whoever was going to end up um, being the opponent, which ended up being Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And not to dismiss how great Patrick Mahomes is, yeah, I get it. He's excellent. He deserves to have his championship and all that stuff. Just I wish it wasn't against my Niners. I wish we were able to keep the lead and get it into like keep it into the fourth quarter and drag it on to the end of the regulation, and then ultimately making the Niners the champions of the 100th football season. But that didn't happen. Kansas City ended up getting the win. The humble pie I so rightfully was trying to serve to somebody, some of the rest of you ended up blowing up in my face, obviously. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I did not um, take it over very well. Now on to another thing. Um, Ever since the helicopter incident the helicopter incident that took Kobe Bryant's life, um, both his jersey numbers have been retired, number 8 and number 24. Um, and um, this is a fact. This is the only player. Kobe Bryant is the only player in the history of the NBA that I know of that have had two jersey numbers, not not by not a jersey number by more than one team, two jersey numbers to be retired, which is um, which is a memorable thing in itself. And I'm not saying he's going to be the only one in history ever from this point on. I'm just saying, um, if you were to sometime in the future have someone else with two jersey numbers retired in the NBA, you can look back at this and say, well, Kobe Bryant was the very first one to have two jersey numbers retired. And that is a fact that at this moment, because I don't know of any other players in the history of the NBA who has had um, two jersey numbers retired by the same team. All right. So, anyways, now there's this petition going out saying that the Jerry West logo that we know to this day to be changed to a Kobe Bryant logo in memory of his greatness. All right. And I'm not trying to dumb down on how great Kobe is and or I mean was and all that stuff. He was a great player and he did change the NBA in some sort of way. But um, if they were to change the emblem of the NBA from the Jerry West symbol that we know now, my opinion is that the Michael Jordan emblem is the more appropriate uh, emblem to put in place of the Jerry West emblem instead of the Kobe Bryant emblem. Now, that being said, if someone were to ask me who was more like Mike than the other between Kobe Bryant and LeBron Lame, it would be Kobe Bryant. Um, that would be more like him. I mean, even Scottie Pippen has been on the record indicating that he like pretty much emulated Michael Jordan step from step as far as the kind of moves he used, basically. So um, he would be the one that would be not exactly Michael Jordan, but a little bit more like Michael Jordan than the other, is what I'm trying to get at. And Scottie Pippen has been on record. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, but Scottie Pippen has been on record indicating that LeBron James does not have the clutch gene. All right. Now, you might be asking, what is the clutch gene? The clutch gene is basically like when it comes down to it, and you need to put the whole team on your shoulders, like Michael Jordan did in at least half a season while Scottie Pippen was out because of back issues, then um, you can handle the stress that comes along with putting the team on your shoulders, because your other half that takes up the reins when the other side of the reins when you're not fulfilling up to your potential in one night is missing. And they still ended up they still ended up getting to the NBA finals, and they still ended up winning before uh, game seven, before they even went to game seven. The game seven didn't have to come into play at any of the NBA finals that the Chicago Bulls, along with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, Luke Longley, Scott Williams, B.J. Armstrong, Horace Grant, John Paxson, Steve Kerr, Dennis Rodman. All right, any of those guys that were on that team. And it looks like my buddy Marky Mark is playing around with the dog right now. All right, but anyways, with any of those guys that were on there, and uh, I'm not sure if I mentioned Tony Kukoc or not in this conversation, but um, yeah, basically all those guys that were um, pretty much part of the Bulls dynasty, and much more that didn't name off yet, because either I forgot the names or there's not much time to name off more names. They never went past the game 6 in the NBA Finals. And as a matter of fact, the only one that I did miss, the 1991 against the LA Lakers, I'm pretty sure they only went into game 5 before they took down the Showtime Lakers with Magic Johnson and company. All right. So, and I'm pretty sure James Worthy was on that team as well. I'm going to have to look at the 1990-91 roster just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure James Worthy was part of that roster as well. And to even get to that height, Michael Jordan and the Bulls had Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the rest of the Bulls had to get past the bad boy Pistons at the time, which had the Isaiah Thomas on there. I say the Isaiah Thomas, meaning not the one that's started with the Celtics and is being bounced around the NBA and all that stuff these days. I'm talking about the original Isaiah Thomas. There's on the Bad Boys. Joe Dumas, um, Dennis Rodman was on there at the time. Yes, I know I named him in with the Chicago Bulls, but he was only with the second set of three-peat, not the first set. In the first set of three-peat, Dennis Rodman was on the Bad Boy Pistons, along with Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumas, and Bill Laimbeer and Chauncey Billups. They were all giving Michael Jordan, especially Michael Jordan, the business, and they're the reason why that Michael Jordan was as tough as he was, basically. So I guess I gotta give it to them for being tough with him and stuff like that. So now that's basically what I use for these days. Like even the so-called super team of this generation NBA is no match for a 1990s team. Any 1990s team, super team or not. And that's a fact. This is Mr. JK signing off. Peace.